Good morning, councillors, officers. Thank you very much for your attendance to this first meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee of the new council. This meeting has been recorded for training purposes and will be stored and available on YouTube. I would remind members that this meeting is streamed live to the public, and can I request that you switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise to help audio and visual quality of the broadcast. Any members of the public who sit in the gallery agreeing to be filmed, it's not intended that they be filmed, it is just a consequence of the small council chamber. Thank you. We have apologies for absence, please, Neil.
Councillors Bright and Baker Westhead, Chair.
Okay. Declarations of interest, please. No? Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 21st of January 2022. There are two members present who were here at that time. Could I ask one of them to move the minutes?
Happy to move them, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Al-Muhami.
Yeah. Second that, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any matters arising? No? Okay, thank you very much. Then if we can move on to the substance of this morning, and I draw your attention to the recommendations to the committee that we are asked to consider whether the annual report reflects a true and fair account of the Welsh language performance over the period in question, which is 2021 to 22, and whether the annual report highlights the ongoing commitment to the Welsh language, and whether the annual report highlights the ongoing commitment to effectively focus on the appropriate successes of the report in Newport, and whether it wishes to provide comment and recommendations on the annual report to Cabinet. So if we can combine our debate to that, please. And then I'll pass you over now to Rhys Gormall, Director responsible for...
Good morning, committee. Thanks very much for taking this report today. Sorry, the mic went off then. So just, I suppose, just some contextualisation for the report so far. This is a draft report. It will go to Cabinet and then come before Council, following committee members' comments on it today. I've got with me Janice Dent, who's the Policy Partnership and Involvement Manager for Newport City Council, and Hywel Jones, who's the Welsh Language Policy Officer. Both Janice and Hywel speak fluent Welsh speakers, so if anybody wishes to ask any questions through the medium of Welsh, we can provide a response to that during the committee proceedings. So some more of the context on this report. The annual report is required as part of our Welsh language standards, which in turn have been placed on us as part of the Welsh language measure. So for those committee members who don't know, we have a series of standards that are imposed on us by the Welsh Language Commissioner, which we have to adhere to through our service delivery, our policy setting, our operational activities. So the report basically covers a series of those specific requirements. So it gives a broad overview of our performance during the course of the year, and also then includes a series of very specific data sets that are required as part of those standards. So they include things like our staffing figures are in relation to the Welsh language and standards of Welsh language being able to be spoken, numbers of complaints that we receive, and I'll say a little bit more about those. Our general sort of staff levels, training activities, recruitment processes, etc. So there's some very specific, there's a series of tables within the report that I'm happy to take questions on and respond to. Again, some more contextualisation from me. Obviously, don't need to remind the committee that this is a reflection back on the 21-22 financial year. whilst we were still dealing with COVID-19 and the impacts of that. So that has had a specific impact on our ability to deliver face-to-face training, for instance, and any sort of face-to-face community activities doing that, because the various restrictions have been in place during that period of time. Just a couple of the highlights from the report, because we've, generally made good progress and continue to make good progress as a local authority with our partners in Newport. So there are a list of key achievements within the report. They include things like the Welsh in the Community Grant, and I'm sure Janice and Hill will be happy to talk through some of the detail of some of the projects associated with that. Updated the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, a refresh and new 5-year strategy to promote Welsh for the local council, which is part of our standards and requirements with the Welsh language measure, and things like a Welsh language skills policy. For Newport, one of the key pressures for us, as far as Welsh language is concerned, is the ability to recruit and retain fluent Welsh speakers to deliver services as part of that requirement. So that continues to be a pressure and a risk that we hold and work through. The report has some information on a number of complaints. So the process for complaints as far as Welsh language standards are concerned are complaints come into the local authority on the usual basis. If the complainant does not receive a response they feel answers their queries, they can then complain to the Welsh Language Commissioner. And the Welsh Language Commissioner will ask us a series of questions and could instigate an investigation into us as a result of that. And my broad point on that is that that isn't something that we should be worried or concerned about. We have some complaints from the Commissioner's office. We're broadly in line with other Welsh local authorities. Some other local authorities have significantly more than us. And the standards themselves are still in that process of development and embedding. So actually, you only really define what those standards are actually asking for by a series of tests through that sort of investigatory process. So we've been going through that for the last 5 years now with the Welsh Language Commissioner in various guises. So there's nothing, from my point of view, that I find concern or alarm in there. We respond to the Commissioner. The Commissioner is generally comfortable with the responses we give. However, we can give committee some more details on that should you require during the course of this discussion. Chair, that's all from me as a kind of overview of it. As I've said, happy to take any comments or questions. Those comments then, the comments the committee decide upon at the end of this will then be included in the report that goes to Cabinet.
Thank you, Rhys. Committee, are you going to ask Rhys any questions at this point or reserve?
So are we going to go on, or is this just general questions now and comments?
I was thinking specifically about the overview that Rhys has given us and the role with regard to the Welsh Commissioner. No? Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Please, Councillor Al-Nawami. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask Rhys, and I think the question that you've alluded to, which is, the target by 2050 of 1 million Welsh speakers in Wales. Okay. What is our projections ourselves, taking Newport in terms of the number of Welsh speakers by that time, as a percentage of the population?
Thanks, Councillor, for that. As a specific percentage that I'm going to hand over to my colleagues in a moment, I suppose some just general comments from me. So I suppose we've got two mechanisms for measuring the numbers of people who speak Welsh within Newport, and one of those is census data, and we know that doesn't happen all that often, so I don't know if we've had the specific data through. So I think that's probably just come through. We haven't done the analysis on it yet. So there's specific information as a result of that. I would always say there's a bit of a caveat with that, because looking back at the last census data from 2011, the figures were skewed because of the percentage of under 18s who were recorded as being fluent Welsh speakers, and that's because they go through up to GCSE level. They have to do Welsh. So a lot of people recorded as fluent Welsh speakers at that point. There was a significant difference between the under 18 population and the over 18 population in Newport. I haven't got the exact figure, but I'm sure we can provide that to committee following the meeting. So that's one mechanism. The other one for this are the numbers of pupils in Welsh medium education, because actually that is a pretty good indicator of actually a change in choice around language as well. So as you know, we're expanding our abilities to deliver Welsh medium education across Newport, and that forms quite a bit of the basis of our sort of promotional standards and our planning over the next 5 years. Janice and Howell, do you want to respond? Add anything else to that?
Sorry. Hello, Councillor Chair. So in terms of the numbers, it was between 9%, I think, based on the census data in 2011. And only yesterday I had an email to say some of the new data has been released. So some analysis and work will be done on that to see where we're at now and how we've developed. But in terms of the number of Welsh speakers, the strategy, the annual monitoring report will link closely with our Welsh in Education strategic plan. Because I think the way to increase the number of Welsh speakers and the data and the targets within Newport is to look at the number of pupils going through Welsh medium education. So that's at the minute where the focus and the work in kind of increasing the numbers are. But on the back of that, there's the work around developing it in the community as well and working with stakeholders and partners through a number of different mechanisms to look at increasing the number of Welsh. And I think as a council, we also offer training for staff as well and try and increase numbers of staff.
I suppose just more broadly, though, there is no percentage target for us in Newport. Because I think that was the heart of the council. I think that was the beginning of your question there. So we haven't got a percentage change target for Newport. We're not in that position. There's a lot of challenge and scrutiny about the Welsh in Education strategic plan that goes through a process with Welsh Government. Actually, the promotional standards for the council in relation to this report are more broadly about are we doing what we need to do in order to promote the use and take-up of the Welsh language.
Can I come back on that? It's, you know, unless we have some measures, this is the annual report. I can take all the points in the report about the effect of the pandemics and the disruption that has caused. So yeah, you know, we can accept that for this year. You know, we cannot do things like that because of that. But I think for future years, and you know, 2050 is 28 years away from now, and this is a very ambitious target to achieve in 28 years. Don't you think it would be useful for the annual report to have a commentary on those targets? They will be embarrassingly low. I understand that currently. They will be embarrassingly low and nowhere near achieving, you know, the sort of targets that the Welsh Government is looking towards. But nevertheless, you know, for this to be a useful exercise for the Council, you know, for decisions by the Council and for the scrutiny process, that I think we should attempt to, you know, give figures about where we are with respect to the percentage of people in Newport that can actually use and speak Welsh.
Diolch, Councillor. So, yeah, taking that on board, definitely. So I think that's definitely something we can action from this year's census data. We can make sure that's included within the report for next year, and also looking at those numbers of children in schools and the other projects that we've done. So thank you for your feedback, and it's certainly something that we will endeavour to put into next year's annual report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Al-Rawi. Thank you, Janice, for the reply. Councillor James?
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, I may have missed this in the report, but I've not noticed anything on fluency. So we've touched on the percentages or lack of at the moment, but how fluent are we aiming for? Has everyone got to be perfectly fluent or beginner level? What sort of level of Welsh are we talking?
Right. Hello, Councillor. Thanks for the question. The tables within the report are for staff, and we break down on the establishment list in terms of the levels of Welsh that staff have. So we've got none, beginner, intermediate and advanced. And going forward with the new Welsh language skills policy, we're looking at adopting an ALTE framework to measure linguistic ability in Welsh, and this will kind of standardise us with some of the other public sector bodies in Gwent and in Wales.
Diolch, Chair. So, just looking into the body, we can see the kind of key achievements and what we've achieved through 21-22. I think there has been a lot of progress. So I know, obviously we opened it with the impact of COVID, but despite those challenges, there's still been quite a bit of progress within the year. So the Welsh Language Promotion Officer in particular has been really supportive through education and raising the awareness. The Welsh in the Community grants that we talked about have really helped community groups to be able to increase the use and raise the awareness of Welsh language. I know I visited one recently with the Hungarian community group and how they're supporting families and the young children that are learning Welsh in school, and how they can help parents to be able to support that. So that's ongoing. There's also an event Saturday, tomorrow, this week, to increase the use in the community as well. And then we've got some of the things that we're looking forward to is the many faces of Welsh. So I think historically it may be seen as a white British language, but obviously trying to engage all communities across Newport in using the Welsh language is one of our key priorities for next year. So, I mean, Rhys mentioned some of the policies that we've put in place this year. So the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, the Promotional Plan, the Welsh Language Skills Policy, and the 5-year Promotional Policy. So lots of work ongoing there, and obviously as we go through the year we can report upon that each time. Employment of skills, so the Right Skills Board is a key part of the work that Howell has been working on in increasing again those people's confidence as well as their fluency. So I know one of the councillors asked about fluency. So sometimes we're trying to encourage staff in particular and community members to be able to use Welsh with it not being perfect yet. So that opportunity to be able to practice and do Cymraeg clear. So that's kind of ongoing work with our staff and communities. And then you've got the monitoring report. So as Rhys has already mentioned, this is a challenge for us in Newport in relation to recruiting staff and retaining Welsh speakers. So, it's, as one of the councillors said, it's always going to be a challenge for us, and we are quite low in relation to that, but it's work that we keep trying to do. So all of our new job adverts that go out are bilingual. There's Welsh speaking as a desirable in every post. So we're trying and we're recruiting through spending a lot of time talking to schools, to colleges about those existing Welsh speakers that we have in the area that might be interested in working in the council. So there's lots of work ongoing. The challenges in Newport, I know that I left school a long time ago and we've talked about this, but at the time we only had one Welsh medium high school at that time, which was in Bargoed. So everybody from kind of Chepstow up had to travel there, whereas now obviously we have Ysgol Coed, we've got lots of Welsh medium schools within Newport and looking to extend even more. So that, I think that gives a flavour of how much work is happening across Newport and how we are trying to support the Welsh language. So there's a breakdown in the tables. As you can see, there's work to be done. The videos that were shared with councillors prior to this meeting are one of the other ways in which we're trying to increase the knowledge and understanding of the importance of Welsh and how we can encourage people to use it. And then there are some key activities looking forward into 21-22. So particularly working with our refugee, migrant and minoritised ethnic groups to be able to increase the Welsh language and embed it as part of a shared sense of identity, and working with community groups again around that. We've got the Welsh language skills policy this year, but next year is definitely about embedding it and being able to report upon progress along with the Cymraeg Clear principles. Building on the creative partnerships arrangements that we had. So we recently, well, Howell and Ewan were involved in a Welsh language rhymes exercise with school children and children from Ysgol Casnewydd. Created a video with the rhyme that was shown during the Wales match. So again, raising Newport's profile in relation to the Welsh language and the work that's going on around the council. So lots of work to be done, but definitely the appetite and the enthusiasm across the council to be able to move it forward.
Thank you. Can you hear me a little bit better now, Councillor James?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you. Could I call in Councillor Evans now, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Some general comments. Firstly, about the video, I was impressed by the production and length, but I wasn't impressed by some of the content. And I did think there was some political content in there which shouldn't have been in there. But that's a personal view. Number of complaints received, formal complaints only 4, which is excellent. And I think I've received more complaints on a daily basis from other areas of the council about that. I noticed nobody wanted the training in Welsh only. Regarding the training, I think we start with percentages and then we move on to numbers. So perhaps it would be helpful if we kept it all in percentage so we get an idea of that. We make reference to the community surveys and what Newport residents thought about the Welsh language. I understand we had about 600 responses, but I can't actually see a summary of those responses in there, so I think it'd be helpful just to find out, you know, a general warts and all what the surveys provided. And the last point really was about the grants, and yeah, it seems a great idea, but I think, Janice, you mentioned the Hungarian cultural community grants. I'm just wondering how we monitor these grants, because it says in the report that some of that grant is used for rent, cleaning products, travel costs. So how much of that actual money, when we monitor, you know, that's one example you raised, how much of that money and how do we monitor it to ensure we get the outcome of what we're hoping for, rather than any organisation potentially taking money and not using it for the purpose it was meant for. Thank you.
Thank you. You're going to answer that one, Rhys, yeah?
Yeah, I think I got, well, Janice might add in now, so I think generally, yeah, I think fine, we can include all of those. I think the monitoring of the community grants is really important, because we need to make sure that actually that's having an impact, and there are outcomes associated with doing it, and the information around, you know, the data included and consistency, definitely. Councillor Evans, as far as the video is concerned, I suppose with that, if you think there's any specific issues with that, if you can let myself and the monitoring officer know what those are, and Gareth and I will review that, and if it needs editing or pulling as a result of that, we will make sure that happens.
Sorry, could I just come in on the Hungarian choice? Is it because it's in the same language family as Welsh that you thought it might be a good area to examine? From memory, I think it's Finnish, Hungarian and Welsh are in the same language family.
Yeah, there are quite a few similar languages, and sorry, all. It was an open bidding process. Howell will be able to explain a bit more, because he was involved, as was Councillor Hughes, on the panel. And it really was about helping people to feel more at home in Newport, you know, far away from home countries, and that opportunity to be able to kind of feel at home, feel part of Wales, feel part of Newport, and to be able to practice Welsh a little bit with their children. That were obviously, everybody learns Welsh within schools. So yeah, it was an open process. But going back to your point, Councillor, in relation to the monitoring, as well as the outcomes that were developed by Councillor Hughes and Howell, that was one of the reasons that I went to the project, just to be able to kind of, because sometimes people provide reports, but it's seeing the impact, isn't it, that makes the difference. So thank you, Councillor.
Chair, sorry. Sorry,
Please,
Chair.
Howell.
Sorry, Chair, Councillor. So just in relation to the grants, we did have a grant instruction. There was an open process, and there was a panel that assessed the grant applications, the criteria. A number of those, obviously because of COVID and they were public engagement events, were postponed to the following year. But we have got a monitoring process and a follow-up process where we've asked them, obviously, to involve the council because we've been giving them the money, but also process in terms of receipts, expenditure, what the money's gone. And part of the project with the Hungarian and the one in the riverfront tomorrow is to increase the inclusivity of Welsh and align it with the 5-year strategy. So the one tomorrow is aimed at the ethnic minorities as well as our Welsh speakers across the community. And
yeah,
I think
I appreciate that. The only thing, when I saw for rent and things, you know, we have the Welsh Church Fund and grants and things like rent is something which we don't do as a council.
Yeah.
So it was just
I think with the rent, it was a case of they wouldn't have been able to hold the event because they had to rent a venue to have the event because they didn't have their own location.
okay.
And in terms of the 600 responses, that was part of the work we did on the 5-year strategy, so they were included as part of that in the appendix. But I take the point, and we can look to reference them and include in the report.
So, Chair, Committee, I suppose just a general, you know, I think we'll take on board all of those comments. A general point on this is that, you know, we are delivering against the Welsh language standards in Newport in a very multicultural, diverse city with lots of different languages spoken. And actually part of our strategy for the increase in numbers of Welsh speakers across Newport has got to incorporate all of those different ethnic groups and incorporate them as well. So, you know, this is about us trying to reach out into all of these communities and you know, make people feel like Welsh is a day-to-day language in Newport amongst all the other languages that are spoken in Newport.
Thank you. Would you like to continue, Janice or Hal?
I think, Chair, that's it about it from us, unless there are any other specific questions from the committee on the content of the report. We've got a series of things to incorporate before this then goes to Cabinet.
Mick,
Yeah, I've got really two specific. Please, just on your last comment, because it comes under key achievements as well in the report. And I have to say that there are a couple of paragraphs in there, they're quite confusing, really, because it mentions, well, first of all, the good news is that we've got now a promotion officer. You've appointed that, so that's good news. Then it talks about the the engagement with the Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities in the area of Newport to promote Welsh medium education, promotion of Welsh medium education in general. But it says nothing about it says key achievements, but it says nothing really about what has been achieved with that engagement. No specifics on that. And I think if you're going to publish that as an annual report, I think we need to say something there, What were the results of that engagement? Because anecdotal evidence, if you like, actually quite a lot of ethnic minority people like their children to speak Welsh and to take Welsh, but there's nothing there. It sort of then jumps about, the last sort of line in that paragraph. They're all also, we're talking about key achievements here, but it says the role also includes the promotion of Welsh in general to both staff and residents of Newport. Such a sweeping general statement, but there's nothing specific there to show any key achievement. You know, that sort of thing. You know, if you're going to take it to cabinet, for goodness sake, you need to sort that out. You know, I like to that. And, you know, in a different setting that I've experienced this week with the school admission forum, I was taken aback how many surplus places existed in the Welsh medium nursery education. Lots of surplus places. And I think, you know, there again, if we're looking at really sort of trying to increase the use of promotion, you know, those places should not be surplus, it should be taken, you know. But there is quite a bit there. So I think the promotion officer, who you mentioned in that section again, you know, they need to work really with the Welsh medium schools. You know, we shouldn't really have these many surplus places.
Thank you. Would you like to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor. In regards to the first point about the information, yeah, absolutely. You know, we will ensure that there's some detail in there about actually what that key achievement was, because actually, as you pointed out, there are just a series of things at the moment, so we'll flesh that out with a bit more detail. And the nursery provision one, I'm probably not going to respond fully to that, other than to say I think that's probably something for us, you know, the committee might want to raise with the Chief Education Officer about in relation to the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan. But we'd certainly take on board your comments around the promotion officer and the work the promotion officer is undertaking. And Janice and I will discuss how that is incorporated into this report, but also into subsequent reports as well.
Thank you, Rhys. Neil, would you get a comment from the Chief Education Officer on this issue about the nursery places, please? Okay. Do we have any other questions specifically? No? Could I draw this part of the meeting then to a close? Sorry, Rhys, you want to come in again?
Apologies, Chair. Slight indulgence from me before you draw this bit to the close and dismiss us. I just want to say, just for public record, this is Howell's last day with us in Newport. He's been with us for 3 years now, and Howell's been pretty instrumental in driving forward quite a lot of the work that we've been doing around Welsh language. So I just want, in the public meeting, put on record my thanks to Howell and to wish him all the best as he moves on to a new career with Audit Wales.
We must produce tremendous officers here in Newport because they all seem to go to work for the Welsh Assembly Government one way or another. Thank you very much, Howell, for all you've done for us. And thank you, Rhys. And that does draw this part of the meeting to a close. And I don't dismiss officers. I ask them if they'd like to leave the room.
Chair, sorry. Is this the end of the meeting? Isn't there normally something?
We'll come on to look at the conclusions now that we're recommending.
Okay, yeah. Because I thought you brought, you said you're going to bring the meeting to a close. That's why. Okay.
Are you going to stay, Gareth? Are you going to stay? Yeah. Okay. Are we content that Mr. Price stays with us? It's not normal, but I have no objection. Everybody else content? Okay. So back to the beginning of the reports. Would you like to discuss, or would you like me to ask you point by point?
I mean, I just hope, and I'm sure they have taken the comments on board. So as far as actual recommendations go, perhaps ensuring that we do monitor the grants and the outcomes of the grants which we provide to various organisations, and in future to receive an executive summary of the responses from the community surveys with residents would be the only points I'd like to add.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. So we're content that it was a fair reflection of what's happened over the last year. Yep, nobody against. And the annual report highlights the ongoing commitment to the Welsh language. Okay with that one? Yep, thank you. Whether the annual report highlights the ongoing commitment to the Welsh language effectively and focuses on the appropriate areas for development. What about that one? That was a little bit hazier, I think.
Well, I mean, it's probably the, I suppose the what we expect to be written, really. But there is absence of specifics, really. Absence of specific achievements. The language is woolly, I mean, it's got all this. So if it's going to the cabinet member, I think they should pay some attention, really, to make it, look more clear and more specific, really. If we're talking about promoting the Welsh language and doing all the council can to promote the Welsh language in the council area, then I think that should be evidenced, really, and more specifically.
Yeah. I think that really echoes what Matthew's just said.
I think Matthew addressed the issue of the grants. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's more general than the grants, really.
Right. And the fourth item, do we want to provide any comment or recommendations on the annual report to Cabinet specifically? Matthew?
I would hope our comments would go forward.
Yeah.
In any case, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Bev, have you got anything to add? Lauren, are you happy? Or content at least? No? Neil, have you got enough there to write down?
I've got everything, thanks Chair, and I'll also get a comment from the Chief Education Officer as well about the query.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your attendance this morning. Look forward to seeing you again on the 29th of July.
Yes, Chair, the next meeting will be held on the 29th of July at 10 o'clock. It'll be hybrid. We'll be discussing the Digital Services Strategy report. Also, we should hopefully then have a draft annual forward work programme to discuss with the committee, just to show what we've got lined up for you and if there's anything else the committee would like to be added on there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you all very much. Good morning.